Sit back and scoot over or take a seat at the edge of the sofa. Relax your feet with Uncle Shaun. Uncle Shaun, Uncle Shaun, Uncle Shaun. Need someone to roll with, pour a drink with, smoke and think with. It's home if he's here. Uncle Shaun, Uncle Shaun, Uncle Shaun, Uncle Shaun.
Hi guys, what's going on?
We're happy to have you, brother.
It's good to be here, man.
I just want to tell you, man, how proud I am. Like, let's start there. Like, people don't get what we do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You watch TV, you watch film, and you're like, oh, that shit's tight.
Yeah.
But they don't know, like, the
journey.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and
man.
I just know what you've fucking put into it,
Yeah,
and
I appreciate
and
that.
I'm proud of you, man.
Thank you. Thank
You're
you very
welcome.
much. It feels good to, be able to have some wins.
Mm.
You celebrate all the big wins and all the little wins and everything that you can in between. And when it happens, it definitely feels good. So, but also inspires me to keep working.
Keep working.
Yeah.
And speaking of working, it's been hard to get this guy here because he's been traveling the world and filming and doing a bunch of cool stuff.
Yeah, I've been thankfully busy this year, which is really good. I've been planting some seeds, and then a lot of the stuff that I've been working on this year all comes out around the fall. One is a big AAA video game, which is going to be awesome.
Can't wait.
A show on Apple TV called Acapulco, and then I worked on another show on Apple TV called High Desert, so that was a lot of fun.
I know you probably can't talk too much about these projects, but I'm really curious about Acapulco. Is there anything you can tell us? Season 1 is on Apple TV.
Season 1 is on Apple TV. Acapulco is a bilingual, lighthearted comedy. If you're a fan of like Ted Lasso, for example, Acapulco is like the Hispanic bilingual Ted Lasso in the way that Ted Lasso makes you feel good. Acapulco does the same thing. And it's super well written.
Fuck yeah.
Cast and crew, writers, everybody's so good. And I was actually a fan of the show before I got cast. This upcoming second season, I'm gonna recur on the show, and my character's a lot of fun. But I watched the first 2 episodes on a plane, like flying from Miami to LA. And I was like, I'm gonna check the show out. And then I ended up watching the whole show in a weekend.
Love it.
And like 3 weeks later, I got the audition, and I was like,
isn't it insane
awesome.
how that works, man?
Yeah.
Apple TV, in my honest opinion, right now has the best work.
Yeah.
Like I just finished Servant.
Severance? Yeah.
No, Servant.
Oh, Servant. Oh,
yes,
okay.
Severance
Severance is great too. Yeah.
Like they're killing it.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
So are you speaking both English and Spanish?
Yeah, so I was born in Mexico and raised here in the United States in San Diego, and have been in LA for a long time. But it was the first opportunity for me to not only work in comedy, but also speaking both languages, speaking Spanish and speaking English. And it was a trip because, in English, we do so much work as actors to understand comedy, to understand the script, to try to find the jokes, to everything that we can in our script analysis. But then it was really fun to be able to do that in Spanish.
So what are the differences between English and Spanish?
Sometimes translating humor won't always cross over. Acapulco has amazing writers in both languages, in Spanish and English. So it was really nice to see the collaboration between everyone. So it was cool because all the jokes are funny in Spanish and all the jokes are funny in English.
So it's just popping.
And you don't necessarily have to be completely bilingual. Like even if you don't understand one language or the other super well, everyone does so well in keeping the show funny, telling the story and doing that. So it was really cool to be able to not only work on a very fun show and well-written show, but also I was a fan of everybody.
Yeah.
I'm working with peers now, but I'm like, I like you.
And imagine getting an audition 3 days after you finish the season. So that's, I believe in God, but universe, whatever the case may be.
And it's our job to, as actors, as a guest, to go in. They already have their show going on, and you can do the best that you can to elevate your work, their work, everyone's work, be part of the story, and try to be memorable.
There you go. That's actors want to be seen. It sounds kind of cocky, but there has to be a sense of you wanting to be seen in order to do this. Right?
Yeah, with respect to whatever is going on already.
Share the space, but you definitely want to steal a scene if you're in it, right?
Yeah.
Great, man. So I am so curious about your upbringing.
Yeah.
I until recently didn't even know you were from Mexico.
Yeah.
By way of San Diego. And I'm sort of from San Diego. My mom grew up there. I live there right now.
Yeah.
I didn't know you played football.
I
There's
did.
a lot of stuff that
Yeah,
I don't think many people know about you.
Yeah, I was born in Tijuana, Mexico, and my mother is from Guadalajara. My dad's straight TJ, and I was basically like a border kid. I grew up the first 7-8 years in TJ, and then my family moved to San Diego when I was young. So it was a trip because a lot of the border kids, we speak both languages fairly well. Sometimes you never feel as though you're part of something because you're on both sides, which initially is a challenge because finding your identity growing up was always a battle. But then as I got older, I realized, well, that is who I am. I'm from both places. I'm bicultural. And you know, but initially growing up, it was a challenge. I have 2 older sisters who are both amazing, but they were already close to high school when they moved to the US. Whereas I was raised more American than Mexican, I would say, because I had my full, went to prom, did the high school thing.
Did the American high
so
school.
that's a big part of me. And then I had to also kind of navigate my family and where everyone else was at and what was going on. And but yeah, I was raised in San Diego. I love San Diego.
So you guys left TJ and you moved to San Diego. Which part?
We lived.
For those of you who don't know,
San Diego
has pockets.
We lived in the South Bay, which is closer border, Chula Vista, and then we moved to the North County, kind of inland, which is Poway, Escondido.
Dude.
And then everyone
teach
still lives there.
Acting at San Marcos.
Oh yeah.
And I've lived in Escondido for the past 10 years.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah.
Whole families in Paradise Hills, Chula Vista. So
yeah, I know it all well. I love to go back and visit, and then after 3 days, I'm ready to come back to LA.
Well, I prefer there than here.
Yeah.
Because I was born and raised right here. Cool, man. So one thing about you, or another thing that I admire about you, is your ability for voiceover. Tell us about the voiceover journey.
Yeah.
And how would a young actor get into that?
Yeah. So when I moved to Los Angeles, there's all the different beasts that we have to conquer, right? There's commercial acting, which is in itself something. Voiceover acting, theatrical, everything. I learned how to speak English playing video games and mimicking cartoons. And that was one of the first ways that I was able to have an American accent. Lose my Spanish accent, I guess I would say. So I've always been a gamer. I love animation. I love everything like that. And when I moved to Los Angeles, I was like, how can I get incorporated into that? I ended up taking a few classes around town and just kind of fully immersing myself in what was available to me at the time, both online classes and so forth, and then created a reel, and then ended up working with my first agent. But it's also been a building process. It's not night and day. Learning how to do reads, learning how to do commercial reads, animation, everything you can, and then, once you do get a job, doing the best you can, focusing on it, and then hopefully, work gets work, and then you keep going. And then now I'm happy to say, last year I came out in my first DC Warner Brother anime. Well, it wasn't DC, it was Mortal Kombat, but it was animation.
Dude, I want to Sub-Zero, man.
Yeah.
That's that was our dream. Cali boys, you know what I mean?
I got to voice Sub-Zero in the Mortal Kombat Legends 2 for Warner Brothers, and Wes Gleason was our animation booth director and voice direction guy, and he does the majority of the DC films. And I'm a big DC fan. So in a way, I got to finally work with people that I've looked up to, that I wanted to work with. Half of me inside is a little kid, and then out on the outside, I'm just professional.
Trying to be professional.
Try to sound all cool.
I'd be geeked, man. And this is a perfect time to move on to our segment called The Unwind. If you want, you can join us for a drink.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. We were talking about Legends, you working with DC, fulfilling that dream. You've worked on other voiceover projects. My issue, I love voiceover, but every day my voice sounds different. Right? I don't know if that's an issue for you, but I'll do something, I'll kill it, I'll submit my voiceover audition, they'll hire me, and then I'll get there a week later, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't know where that voice is. It's gone. You know, so talk about that. Like,
Yeah.
what's it like to like, you know?
I've learned that, especially in the voice world, it is our instrument.
Mm-hmm.
So I've learned to have similar discipline to sing as singers do.
Mm.
So then knowing how to warm up, knowing how, especially with auditions, like, you know, depending on how much we've been talking, if we drank the day before, if you didn't drink before, you don't have that problem 'cause you're not drinking. But if
Yeah.
I drank the day before, or if I just use my voice a lot, how to take care of it.
Mm-hmm.
And then knowing where it is, you know, in your frame,
your frame.
whether you were up here, whether you're nasally, whether
Yeah.
you're down
Yeah.
here in the gut.
Pinpoint it.
Yeah, and being able to, again, like, understand your medium or your voice and
Yeah.
your instrument and where you were at the time.
Yeah.
And then sometimes, yeah, we will sound different, you know? Nerves might get you. You might,
Oh, yeah.
you know, you might be, depends on if it's early in the morning or
Yeah.
in the middle of the day or at
Yeah.
night. But now through the more experience, the more you get to know, like, all right, you know, this is where I'm at right now. This is how I'm going to sound. This would be great, you know, whatever.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I want to, I guess, test your vocal.
I'm not a
Ability.
singer, eh? You're not gonna sing.
So if I was to ask you, give me some Sub-Zero. What was that like for you?
Oh, Sub-Zero was
Let us hear that.
Sub-Zero was down here, super down, gritty.
Mm.
I'm a ninja. I'm going to kill. I don't know, whatever.
Yeah.
But it's just like you have to find it down on the bottom side and be super cold ninja person. You know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's great.
This one's gonna crack you up. Goldie and Bear.
Oh yeah.
You were a troll.
Goldie and Bear was a troll.
Mm-hmm. What's he sound like? Or she?
He was, so the way that I approached this one is Scooby-Doo, kind
Ooh.
of. So the troll was, he lived under the bridge. He was very kiddish. So if he would see something that would be like, ooh, butterfly, that is cool. But he wouldn't say words. It kind of was like, words, you know, like words like Tasmanian devil-like. And then occasionally he would say, like instead of butterfly, I was like, ooh, flutterby, you know, and kind of stuff like that. So Goldie and Bear was very fun because I got to play as a little kid, and it wasn't necessarily using words, it was necessarily actions. The lovely thing about shows, kids shows and stuff like that is that you might have line one, action, this happens, it's raining, you grab a mushroom and you bring the mushroom up and you cover yourself and it's too small and you put it down and then you say your third line, and you as a kid have to be able to create that whole action sequence and then give a few takes of that. And then that's what ultimately becomes animated. But it's so much fun because it's like, you know, I played with G.I. Joes as a kid.
Dude.
It's essentially bringing all that out as an adult and then
that's what we did
vocalizing
for a
it.
living as children.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And as adults, we can tend to just lose that.
Yeah.
And become insecure and self-conscious about all of that. Right?
And the thing is, as you learn along the way too, is like as an actor, you make your choices, you do them, and even if, for example, it doesn't work out and they give you another direction, it's not the end of the world. It's being able to just play. Sometimes we might like have our choice, and if they give us direction that is different, we'd be like, oh, that's because we suck, you know? And it's not true. It's just being able to open up and play and being able to collaborate. And the more that you're willing to free that up, the easier it gets and the funner it gets, and the better the work comes out.
Yeah. So I want to talk about your passion for your heritage, right? And how important it is for you to see representation of Latinx culture on TV and on film and on, you know, all these platforms. Has it gotten better since your childhood, would you say? Like for me, I can say it has for the Black community, but I don't hear it talked about enough in the Latin community.
Yeah. I believe that, and now having spent, you know, my 12 years in LA, my first network credit was 2014. So I kind of view as like from that point on, like the beginning of what I've been able to do something here in Hollywood and on TV. I believe that since 2014, for example, in my experience, it's gotten a lot better. It's really cool to see there be more opportunities and people getting behind the scenes as far as like writing opportunities, directing opportunities. It's still very small, but I think that there is a huge amount of progress.
Okay.
For me, in my own individual journey, I'm very proud to be bicultural.
Yes.
And the more that I've auditioned lately, I am proud to be a person that's like, I don't really think this needs an accent.
Yes.
I'm still assimilating, or I'm still trying to understand what the writer's idea of my identity is, because the writer may not always necessarily be my identity or my be of Latin descent.
Yeah.
So I have to understand where they're coming from, and then be like, what can I portray, and what answers can I give you on what you need for this character? It's gotten a lot better where there is more of an understanding, and like also that, you know, Latinx people come in all colors and all types, you know? And so I think there's more of an awareness, and I think that more stories are being told that are like proper representation. But I just think that, you know, I hope that there's still a progress, and I hope that there's more opportunities for people to write, to, you know, tell stories, to networks to invest in it, you know?
Say that again.
Networks to invest in it.
Yes.
And know that, like, you know, because you know, the movie going audience, Latinos are a big part of it when movies come out.
Latinos are a big part of everything in this fucking country.
Yeah, and so I hope that that it just continues to progress a little bit. Also, for me, who's like basically zero to first generation, there's a lot more people like me, you know, and we don't all speak with accents. And so the idea of characters being written that's like, oh, they moved to the US when they were 8 or 9. They can speak perfect English and perfect Spanish. That is something that exists. So I'm trying to be more firm in being proud of what I am and who I am, and try to create characters like that instead of, you know, being a stereotype of my dad or like, you know, things that I don't think is needed anymore.
Is there or are there projects that you've seen that you're like, thank God for that fucking show? Like, right? For me, it was like Insecure. Like, things that like, it propelled Black culture on television in a positive light.
Yeah. I really love Acapulco, of course, and I'm so happy I got to be part of the show.
So excited to see it.
Also, Gentified, that was on Netflix.
Yes.
Gentified was a great written show. It was awesome. Vita, which was on Stars,
Shout out to my boy Theo. I'm calling him the Station 19 name, Carlos Miranda.
Yeah. He's on. He's with you.
Yeah,
so I thought Vita was a great show. I thought those were like the start of shows that have come out within the last few years that like show Latinos on all the spectrums, which is amazing. Los Espookies was really funny. Club de Cuervos is one of my favorite ones in Netflix, but it's on the Spanish language side. I just think it's hilarious.
I can watch it with English subtitles?
Yeah, but it is really funny. But I would say like Acapulco, Gentified, which I really enjoyed watching the 2 seasons that was on. So I love all those shows.
Good, man. This shit needs to be talked about, and I'm glad that you use your platform to speak on it.
Yeah, and I firmly believe in everything else that's coming out. I think Wilmer Valderrama is doing something about Downey, like so I forget what it's called, but it takes place in Downey, which is like the Mexican Beverly Hills. So stuff that's more close to home, that's like, you know, like I said, that represents us in all colors and lights, and shows that we don't have to all have accents, and you know, but also like be proud of where we come from, and you know, because there's so many Latinos, there's so many different countries. Like, you know, I spend a good amount of time in Miami, and I love hanging out with, you know, Venezuelans, Puerto Ricans, Cubans, everybody. It's like we're all different.
Absolutely.
You know? Sorry, the movie that just came out, Father of the Bride, which was a remake with Gloria Estefan and Andy Garcia.
Okay, yes.
It was awesome. I got to watch that. It was like a Cuban family married a Mexican family, and I really enjoyed. That was an example of watching a film that was like so much fun.
They got it.
Yeah.
So that's inspiring, man. Let's talk about some of your work, right? So I remember I got a phone call from one of our buddies, Mr. Ryan, and it was dead in the middle of the pandemic. And he's like, yo, man, Bayardo's on this show called, what is it? It's I always want to call it Pretty Little Liars. Tiny Pretty Things.
Tiny Pretty Things.
I was like, a word, what's it about? He's like, that's a ballet. And I was like, nah, you know what I mean? Like, I went through that process. And one day I was sitting at home and I turned it on and I binged the entire show in like 2 days, man.
That's awesome.
And you were fantastic.
Thank you.
And if you guys, most of you guys have probably already seen it, go watch Tiny Pretty Things on Netflix, starring this guy here. So what was that process like? And when I started the show and when I saw you, it was so night and day.
Yeah.
And your character was added such a different flavor to the show. And it was like, no wonder he did this. No wonder, this is brilliant. So tell me about that process. What was the audition like?
The first initial audition was a self-tape. The casting office had cast me on Shooter before. So there was a little bit of a relationship. And then I didn't know anything about like the book, that it was Tiny Pretty Things is adapted from a book, a teen novel. And I just got like, you know, teacher, ballet choreographer, like got a little breakdown, did the audition. During the audition process, I didn't really believe that I was gonna get cast in it. I was just kind of like, I don't know. And I always say this, like my lady was filming me. She's like, what's the show? I was like, I don't know, some teen show. It's not gonna cast me, it's fine. And then once we started going through the scenes and, you know, putting it on tape, she's like, I think you could probably get this, you know? And the second time that I got called back and got to meet, you know, the showrunner and the director and a couple of producers, everybody was just so super nice and liked my work. And then ultimately I ended up getting cast.
There you go.
And one of the most beautiful things that was said was like, when I had my first conversation with our showrunner, Michael, he was like, hey, I really liked your work, and like just getting to meet you, I just wanted to make sure that I cast nice people that I knew I could work with. And that was always like,
and that's very common.
Yeah.
Everyone's talented these days, man. And it's like, who can you stand and be around for 12 hours a day?
Yeah.
Like, who's kind, right? That's a very good point.
Yeah, it's like we do have to know our worth and put in the work, but also like be a good person, don't have an ego, you know? And I've always stood by that, you know, always. And so it was really cool to hear that initially going into like my first series. So then that kind of took the edge off, like, you know, because I'm not a dancer. So I got cast as a ballet choreographer. I'd never done ballet before.
I was cracking up.
Yeah, and then I moved to Toronto. We did about a month and a half of like dance rehearsal and stuff like that. And my castmates were so talented, super talented dancers.
I think I remember reading that they were more interested in casting dancers than like actors.
Both. Actors that could dance.
That could dance,
yeah.
Got it.
But because of that, there were never dance doubles. So like everyone on the show who dances, that's them dancing.
That's them.
And the same way that I had experience with stunts, the discipline with the dancing was like everyone had this high discipline that like when you went to work, you were working. If you weren't acting, you were, you know, in dance rehearsal. If you weren't in dance rehearsal, you were, you know, doing script analysis, whatever.
So it was taken very seriously.
Yeah, it was taken super seriously. And ultimately, when you watch the show, like it's really great to see how beautiful the dance was.
It was
and
awesome.
Everything came out. I'm proud of my work because I essentially was kind of like the villain.
It's so good.
But I made him as honest as I could, and the whole experience in itself was like super cool, and the cast and all of us were like gonna be we're family forever.
Absolutely.
But it was one of my first, you know, this was my first big series and my first opportunity to like have a debut. And I just
it was
put
at
everything
a time when everyone was hurting, right? Everyone was confused with this pandemic.
Yeah.
Right? So I remember sitting in the house and connecting with your show and feeling like, oh, fuck, this makes me feel better about, you know, the uncertainty.
It was a fun,
it was at a great
teen
time.
drama.
It was at a great time where it just felt like, okay, I needed that.
Yeah,
you know, so good job, man. Ramon was awesome.
Thank you, thank you. He's always gonna be a part of me. You know, when we have to play villain characters, I guess, to me it's just finding the truth in everything and the honesty, and then you know, the humanity of people. And Ramon was a lot of fun to do that.
I was cracking up. Like this. I was like, when is he gonna dance? Like, I need to see. It was so funny. But that's great, man. I want to end this with like perseverance. So, coming from Mexico, growing up in San Diego, right? Going to college, right? Playing football, moving here on a whim, and working, and something we were talking about earlier is like process and journey, right? So, I remember my journey was like 300 auditions before I got one yes, right? And here I am kind of on the other side of that, right? Where I'm okay dusting my TV grind, you know, showing up on set every day, right? Doing a whole season. And now it's like, okay, so there was pilot season, and now I felt like I was getting auditions just because I was on the show, which I'll take it.
Yeah.
So I'm curious about your journey. Like, how has your work affected your auditions or your opportunity, or is it the same?
I feel as I've progressed and been able to work a little bit more, let's say after Tiny Pretty, right? I think it's opened up doors for me with offices that I necessarily have never been with, right? Or auditioned for. And at the same time, you know, as you move up, your competition's higher.
Oh yeah.
You know, so because we, you know, when I first moved it to Los Angeles, it was always, I just want to work. I want to get it. I would love to get a credit and do this and get into the union. And it all comes, but as you start moving up, competition's higher, you got to work even harder. You got to keep going. In the years that I've been here, a lot of people come and go. There's people that I feel like I was chasing, and then you might get to their level, and then people leave, disappear, whatever, or keep going, and then you keep going, you know? But it's all about never losing the belief in your work and your work ethic. As you know, after Tiny Pretty Things, pilot season and stuff, the opportunities would come. But again, I'd have to remind myself to always put in the work, treat every audition with, you know, the best that I can. So then I have no regrets and just can be like, oh, I didn't get it, but it's all good. I did everything that I could and I believed in my work. And then now the more that I work with others, you realize, like, you know, your work ethic is what's gonna make you. So I always say, it's like, always have the belief that something's coming, and it will, which is believe in your work ethic and believe in your work and believe in the work that you put in, but also know that there might be a reality that something might not come.
Speak.
And when I say that, it's check your ego, you know, because things in this industry can be taken away as soon as they given to you.
Before it's given to you, yeah.
So if you live also with the reality that, like, you could not work possibly for a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, but still believe that something's coming, you will keep that drive, not have an ego, you know, be a good person, but always believe in the work that you put in, you know. And I think that is one thing that I always have to continually remind myself, tell myself, you know, as auditions come in or as opportunities come in, and no matter what level you're at, whether you've been on a series for this long or you're just starting, we all go through the same journeys, you know? We've all been on hold for stuff. We're all reading for stuff. We all were pinned and then didn't get it, you know? Everybody. So, you know, you just keep going and continually believe in your work that you put in, and that's it.
Press on.
Yeah, man.
Thank you, man. I think this was very informative. You already know, it's family. So plug the people. Where can we find you? What should we be looking forward to? When does Acapulco drop?
Acapulco is going to come out sometime in the fall. It's gonna be awesome. I do recommend watching season 1 on Apple TV, first of all. You can find me on Instagram at Bayardo D, B-A-Y-A-R-D-O-D. I don't do anything else other than Instagram.
I don't do anything.
I tried one TikTok dance with my niece, and that's okay.
We have to take a class with Ryan.
Yeah, we got to take a class with Ryan for sure. And then, in the fall, one of the bigger launches, a video game, is going to come out around October.
You gamers, you hear that?
You gamers, well, no.
It's going down.
But they'll start announcing a little bit more this summer, and so this will be really cool. But I'm very happy to take part in that game too. So,
ladies and gentlemen, Lord B.
Yeah.
Thank you.